Hi, and welcome back to the Bold and Blissful Woman, where we help you connect with your feminine essence to create the extraordinary life and love you desire. Today, we have an award winning transformational author and women's empowerment coach. Her name is Jan Deelstra. Welcome, Jan. I'm super excited to have you today.
Thank you, Nicole. It's a joy to be here.
Thank you. I am so excited about today's talk. We are going to be talking on how to see our life as a mirror, right? We are going to be talking about the subject of projections, mirrors, and how it's really powerful for us to use to transform our lives. Could you tell to the audience a little bit about yourself? What is it that you're currently doing, your experience, so that they get to know you a little bit more?
Sure, Nicole. Everybody likes to talk about themselves. I have been in the field of women's empowerment since 1984, when I first went through some coursework that is based in what's called Gestalt. And all you need to know is Gestalt means whole. It's the whole person, mind, body, spirit, energy, all of us in one. And so since 1984, I have gone on to utilize these tools and grow my tribe and to empower women worldwide. I'm also the author of several books that are all based on transformational, experiential tools that I offer. And today we're going to talk about the one that is probably at the baseline of everything I do, of everything you do, and of everything all the listeners do. And that is projections. And I know a lot of people have heard the word maybe floating out there, and maybe they don't really have a great grasp of what projections are. But projections really are the filters that all of us speak with, we communicate with, we listen with. They absolutely affect every single aspect of life, every aspect, from your relationships to your career choices to your self-esteem. And self-esteem is really the bottom line of what I promote for women. So it's all about women's empowerment.
I love that. Could you explain a little bit to the audience, what's at the core of a projection, right? Can we talk about a little bit of what's at the core and what's the origin of it so that we are, get more clear with the concept?
Sure. Projections, really, if you wanted to replace that with biases or filters, all of us have been taught through our cultures, our families, our educational institutions. There are all of these things that we learn that we believe now are ours. They're really not ours. They really come from outside conditions.
Mm-hmm.
And are you ringing? I can hear ringing.
Yes.
At any rate, all of these lessons and messages come from whatever we're exposed to, and we incorporate them into our psyche, into our subconscious mind as beliefs. And these beliefs color everything we do and say. They are our filters, and when we communicate with other people, our communication is laced with our biases, our filters, our cultural representations of what we've been taught and what we've learned to own. Doesn't make them right, doesn't make them wrong, just means that's where they all stem from. On the other side of that is, as a receiver in communication, whatever someone is saying to me is based on their filters, their biases, and they are projecting them onto me as I project mine onto them. It's a real simple concept once you get a grasp of it. And if it's okay with you, Nicole, I'd really like to just exhibit it by maybe walking you through a little exercise that I do with all my clients. And if you are game to do this, and the viewers can do this along with us, I, of course, can't talk to them directly, but if they watch you, they'll get a grasp. And as a part of this, at the end, I'll offer a link so that they can go on and get some more information about projections. And it's totally free, no opt-in necessary. I didn't make it an opt-in page. I'm just, come and get it. It's yours. If they want to opt in and sign up on my newsletter, they get a lot more. Now, if not, that's fine too. I'm just here to give the tools and or they can buy the books and get them. But this is a really fun basic one that affects everything. So are you with me? You want to play?
Yes.
Okay. All right, then I'd like you just to start by just kind of looking around your room and just choose one object or two objects. Let's just start with one since we kind of have some time restraints here. Maybe just choose any object in your room.
Done.
Got one? Okay, tell me what it is.
A curtain.
A curtain?
Yes.
Okay. All right, Nicole, then I'd like you to start by actually being the curtain. So in other words, you are going to animate the curtain as yourself, and you are going to describe yourself using I messages. So now I am a curtain, and I am, and you fill in the blank.
I am a curtain, and now I am flowing. I am transparent.
Yes, you are. What else?
I am a flower. I am beautiful.
Yes, you are.
I am light. And I am happy. Yeah, that's
Anything else?
I have, even though I'm light, I have many layers.
Ah, yeah, I could see it just behind your eyes. I could see there was something more.
Yes.
Something more.
Yes.
Okay, so let's just take those things right now. You're light, you're flowing, you're beautiful, you're a flower. What of those descriptive words do you own as being Nicole?
I have many layers.
Yes, you do.
I am beautiful.
Yes, you are.
I'm a flower.
You're transparent.
Yeah, transparent because I am.
You are. I can see that.
The only thing that sometimes I think I have trouble owning is I am light. Like light as in, not heavy.
I got you.
Yeah. Sometimes it's, yeah.
So can I just be spontaneous here?
Yeah.
Okay, good. What if it was okay to own your not lightness?
Yeah.
What if it was okay to own every facet of who you are?
That's liberating.
No judgment.
That's liberating.
It is liberating. That's right. That's the basis of what I do. It is liberating. It's owning every single aspect of who you are. My whole motto with my women's empowerment coaching is you have one purpose, and that is to learn to love every facet of who you are. Not just the light. The light is always there, and so is the opposite of that, which is the dark. And without the dark, how would you know the light? How would you ever feel it? Nicole, things in life are dark. They are dark. And things in life are light. And whatever we focus on expands. So if you choose to focus on, the dark or the heavy, or conversely, if you try to deny it, you're disowning parts of who you are. So to own everything, it's all sunshiny and rainbows if you want to look around and, I'm a curtain and I'm light and I'm glowy and I'm beautiful. But there's always another side, always. There's always more dimensions to that. And when you said layers, that was the truth. Mm-hmm. There are many, many layers to you. There are many facets to who you are. And your whole purpose in life is to learn to love every facet of who you are. Period. And what happens with that? Then you project it all out onto your world. And guess what happens in the law of attraction? all of it comes back exactly as we project it out. So love and light is fabulous, and sometimes there's some darkness. There's stuff. You know, we were talking earlier about how Colombia has this reputation for being the happiest people on earth, and I love that. I mean, what an attraction, right? I'm ready to pack my bags, get my passport, and be on my way down, knocking on your door. So, and that's all based on projections. It's what you just projected to me, right?
Yes.
And so my projections are, I'm getting the hell out of here in the States. I'm coming down.
Yeah.
I want to be happy and laughing, right? But I also know that I'm layers and layers and layers, as you and everyone viewing are layers and layers and layers. And the longer we live in this physical plane, the more layers we get. And my mindset is that we also do this lifetime after lifetime. Viewers don't have to agree with me. That's my bias. And that's where my projections come from. I really think that every single experience we have it's important, and it's that seasoning to who we are. It gives us more and more and more layers. And I'll tell you something very, very personal. I had a horrific childhood. I didn't know it at the time. I mean, I was just getting through childhood. But as an adult with biases of what I've learned, and I look back and I put judgments of good, bad, black, white, bad, whatever. And it's not true. It's every experience I had and have had make the whole of who I am. Every experience you've had and the viewers have had is part of the whole. We don't want to disown that. Now, don't confuse that with letting go of what no longer serves us, because there are ways to let go of the things that stop us, the things that cause way too much darkness and maybe depression or that sort of thing. And what I can show you or give you the tools for is to turn those struggles into strengths, so that you are in fact liberated by all of your experiences without judgment of good, bad, black, white, dark, light, all whole who we are, the whole, the gestalt.
Perfect. I love that. Before I go into like the juicy question that I have for you, I want to ask something or clarify something for the audience. I think that we have all heard the terms of projections. Are they the same thing as mirrors?
You know, Nicole, it's very, very similar. The difference is when I look at you or I look at anyone else, you are a perfect mirror of me based on my projections. For example, if I said to you earlier, you are contagious in a really beautiful, light, expansive way. You're just such a ball of beautiful energy, beautiful light being. And it's so contagious. And so my bias, because I love the light. I love the light. I love working towards being more light. And I think that's what you do too. And so that's our common mirror. That's the part of us that our little antennas go out and we find we find the kindreds. Now, if let's put it this way, as far as projections, if I wake up in the morning and I'm in a really crappy mood, and I get out of bed, I kick the cat, I scold the dog, everything is just miserable, miserable, miserable. I go through the rest of my day miserable, miserable, miserable. Everything is horrible. Life sucks, Conversely, if I wake up in the morning and I'm in a really good mood, the sun's shining, and I'm all happy and I feel good about it, that's what I project onto other people. So naturally, I'm going to mirror whatever the emotion I wake up in the morning. I will mirror that onto my environment, which includes other people, but not just people, as we just learned with the curtain projection example. But regardless of however we feel at any given time, that's what we are mirroring, that's what we're seeing in other people. If I'm miserable, and we all know people out there that are just miserable, they're going to breed more misery because that's what they're going to project, that's what they're going to mirror, that's what they're going to attract back into their life. More to be miserable about. Because the universe is always, always, always honest. And it will bring back exactly what we put out. Exactly. So it makes sense to me to be a ball of light, and for the most part, But again, owning that part that is a seasoning. If it's something destructive about a person, look it over, put it on the seat in front of you, describe it just like you did the curtains. You can do what's called hot seat work and just put all those projections into whatever that emotion is that's stopping you. As an example, maybe you're angry at an old boss or an old lover, or even someone who's passed on, someone who has died or moved away. You can bring them kind of psychically in front of you, and you can communicate with them and have a conversation with, now I'm talking to this emotion, whatever it is. I describe it using the same techniques as we did with the projections on the curtains, and maybe it's gray and dark and heavy, whatever, and then change chairs and become whatever that is, and then use those same words and come out. That's one of the most empowering exercises you will ever do, ever.
So my question is, I know that there would be a lot of resistance
Okay.
to do exactly what you just said, right?
Okay.
With
How
whoever,
so?
Because I've seen it in my own life. I've talked it with my clients, and I've seen this pattern that when it's all good, like fun, love,
Yeah.
it's good to see, that I'm
Uh-huh.
projecting onto this person, I'm projecting onto this situation. But when we are noticing bad qualities, if we add the term, or all these sort of things in other people, we say, no, that's not me, right?
Yeah, right. And yet, if it wasn't a part of us, we wouldn't be able to see it. That's the truth. If you can see it, it is a part of you. Doesn't mean it's a part of you that you're going to nurture and turn into a monster. And it doesn't mean it's a part of you that you need to stuff. Because the minute you start stuffing what's real, it's going to fester and it's going to blow up. And that's the stuff that's all over the news, right? When people blow up.
Can you talk about that part of like trying to hide it or stuff it? Because I feel like that's something that a lot of us might do, right? Like we want to look
Absolutely.
at
It's very
it.
human.
Yes.
Very, very human. Nicole, I think that if you master this, if anyone masters this, first of all, we have to be really gentle with ourselves. Humans tend to be, with all the false ego that's out there aside, people puff up, they go out into the world with their persona, their mask, whatever, for whatever occasion. The truth is, if you really knew the core of people, you'd know that all those masks and all that ego is trying to hide, camouflage feelings of insecurity and poor self-esteem, right? And so when we have those moments of self-doubt or of what you call the dark stuff or whatever, let it be. Socrates built a gazebo in the back of his property to go out there, and he would sit out there, what he called when Saturn came to call. Saturn is the heavy, the exacerbator of any emotion. So when you're feeling deep, let's use the word deep, when you're feeling deep, allow it. Allow it. And look at it and put that, whatever that emotion is, on the chair in front of you. Talk to it, examine it, get really, really clear about what it is and where it comes from. Because chances are, as projections go and biases go and beliefs are, chances are it's based on something you learned as a little child. Maybe it's an old message about how you should or shouldn't be. And I'm here to tell you to let go of the shoulds and the oughts. There are no shoulds. Don't should all over yourself. Just own whatever it is as being perfect, perfectly human. You're perfect in your humanness.
I want to share something. I have a special relationship, with a person that I care about, and for so many years I thought that this person, their boundaries weren't necessarily objective, right? And I had this resistance inside of me, and I would be like, but I don't understand, you know,
Mm-hmm.
this person. And I knew that there was something there that I needed to understand, and I knew that I would try to analyze it over and over again, but then it still didn't feel right. The second in which I realized what was going on was that I admired that this person had this level of boundaries for themselves, right? It didn't matter
Yeah.
if the world agreed or not.
Yeah.
That person was content with their boundaries. And that for me was liberating because it didn't come from a place of, I don't understand this person. Why is this person this way? It never felt good. It never felt good until the moment was that I realized, hey, I actually think it's because I've been living this situation. It kept coming up at me all over the
Mm-hmm.
place, everywhere, at any
Mm-hmm.
time, until the moment that I realized you need to have stronger boundaries. You're just giving an example in
Yep.
front of me. And in
Mm-hmm.
that moment I just felt like in my body how it just,
Yeah.
relaxed. And I was like, oh, so that was it.
A couple things that you just said are so powerful. The last one being that you felt your body change. That's the one thing that in a group setting or in a one-on-one with a client, when the mind body, remember where we started with all this, the mind body connection, everything is connected. When the mind and the heart, the soul, the spirit, the intelligence all gets it, the physicality gets it too. And you will see changes and feel changes in your liberation or in whatever when you release. What you did was you released it. You were holding on to something, trying to think it through, right? Think, think, think. What is this resistance? It would have been maybe a little easier if you had the tools to just put your resistance, because it's yours, doesn't belong to this other person, it's yours. So you own it. It's here, it is right in front of you. Put it in front of you and see it, and then describe it. Okay, that's this part. But when you be it, when you change chairs and you sit down and you actually be your resistance and you feel what it is to be the resistance and where did it come from and what color is it, how big is it, what can it do to Nicole, what is it, and really get to know it, then you decide what to own, which is the lesson of, oh, yeah, I need to have better boundaries. And as coaches, you bet we need to have better boundaries or we would burn up. I've been doing this since 1984. I'm going to tell you what, there'd be nothing left of me if I didn't have boundaries. Excuse me. I take the last week of every month off without fail. No clients, no phone, nothing. That's it. That's me. It's when I do whatever I'm doing to rejuvenate my batteries. And so for you to say, I learned all of this and I need new boundaries. That was why that person is put in front of you so that you can, in fact, find the mirror in that person because it is you.
I think that ultimately every mirror is put in front of us for a higher good,
Absolutely. Even the ones that we don't think we want.
right? Right. So how does a person, here's the question, how does a person beat through that resistance and looks at that situation and is able to look at it, right?
Uh-huh.
Deeply.
Practice.
And why is it important for us to look at those mirrors that are uncomfortable to us? Why is it important?
You know the answer to this one, I think, because those are the ones that have the most personal growth potential in them, right? The things that we try to deny or pretend aren't part of us, that's really the stuff that we can maybe improve on, maybe take a little growth from, decide what to own, what to say, release with love, and that it no longer suits us. I think that the most revolting mirrors that come into our lives are the ones that really cause us to be better people in the end. If, in fact, we take advantage of that and work through it. If we don't, they're going to keep coming until we get it, because the universe always has a way of either nudging or smacking you upside the head, depending on what we need.
Yeah, that's a beautiful, beautiful observation, and I agree wholeheartedly. What about those positive ones, right? You mentioned that it's all about becoming more light. So what's
Mhm.
a fun exercise that a person can do, let's say on a daily basis, weekly
Mhm.
basis, that keeps them, updated with what they are projecting?
Nicole, honestly, I have so many that it's hard to focus on one, but since we're talking about projections, and because that is really at a baseline of everything I do, I'm going to share this. If everybody would keep a dream journal and write down even a little tiny snippet, because my brain tends to slam shut as soon as I wake up in the morning. It's like coffee, give me coffee. I forget that. It's like those doors are shut. But if we lay still long enough and just remember the little tiny piece or some people are really good at, they have the whole major motion picture, in their head and they remember all of it. Good for them. Still take a piece of it and focus on the feeling of what's in that dream. I'll give you a little example of one that's a very personal one to me, and it's not so personal now because I put it in one of my books, Escaping the Chrysalis, and so everybody could read it. But at the time, it was very, very personal. And it was way back in 1984 when I was just first going through this learning how to do the Gestalt training. And I didn't remember my dreams at all. I was a single mom. I had 3 kids. I had lots to do. I probably didn't sleep enough. And who could remember dreams, right? I just was run, run, run. But I was in this group, and my facilitator, whom I later ended up working with, excuse me, and he passed this year. He and his wife both died this year, which was a tremendous loss. But he said to me, "Tell yourself before you go to bed tonight, I give me permission to remember my dream." And I thought, well, whatever. So I did. Right when I was falling asleep, I give me permission to remember my dream. The next morning, I woke up with just a little snippet. Now, it wasn't a lot. I didn't remember the whole major motion picture, but I got this little piece. I went to group and I said, "I remembered my dream." I said, "But it was only little. It's not, I started to discount it." And the facilitator said, "Well, let's try it. Let's just try it." Now, here's a group of 20 women, and I'm, by nature, you wouldn't know it, but by nature, I'm very, very private, reserved. I don't like to be the center of attention. And here I was standing in the middle of this circle. And what my dream was I was a really sporty car, and I had a really valuable 100 watts per channel car stereo, and it was being ripped off. Okay, so that's it. There were some people watching. So that's it. That's all I have. Well, when I worked it out with the projections, the same kind of thing that we just did with the curtains, what I did was I figured out as the car, I'm powerful, I'm valuable, and I'm getting ripped off. As the car stereo, I'm powerful, I'm valuable, and I'm getting ripped off. As the bystanders looking, we're a little ambivalent about it. We don't really know if we care or not. We're kind of, that's it. Well, if I'm honest with you, I'll tell you what was going on in my life at that point was I was dating a man who, as it turned out, was still having relationships, let's call them, with his ex-wife when he'd go out to babysit when she went to school at night. And so when I found out that, and as I worked out my dream, I knew I was being ripped off by this person. I was feeling ripped off, but I hadn't allowed myself to really embrace it and what that meant. And so that night, the gentleman came over, and I said, "Here's the deal." I said, "You obviously can continue to sleep with your ex-wife. You can do that, obviously, because you are. And as long as you choose to do that, I choose to not have anything to do with you. Now go away and don't come back." Well, he was beside himself, begging, "Please, and he's, "I'll never do it again." We went on to have a relationship for like 6 more years. It ended, but not for that. So that little snippet was so empowering, and that for me was one of the biggest tools I ever got from it. And so, of course, that was where my bud began to explode, and I began to do more and more and more research. The facilitator asked me to come to work with him, and that's where this whole thing started.
It's beautiful. And yeah, personally speaking, I've had my own experience when it comes to dreams. I've had really, really powerful stuff happen when it comes to
Ah,
dreams. There are some times that I don't really understand them. So, but I notice that you mentioned something really important. What are ways in which we can start to analyze our dreams? I know that you were witnessing yourself as all the
mhm.
people that you saw, but if you could explain that further, that would be awesome.
Yes, absolutely. It's the same thing you just did with the curtains. In whatever piece of your dream or person in your dream, let's use an example that's really common. Nicole, a lot of times people will have someone in their dream, but they don't recall the face. It's kind of like a blur, maybe a faceless. And so you become this faceless person and you describe them as being yourself. And what you get is maybe, I don't know myself. And that's a big lesson, to go to your mirror in the bathroom when nobody's around and start to make eye contact with yourself in the mirror and describe yourself. And start by saying, I love and accept me. And this is something that I'm going to be honest with you. In a group setting, we sit three women, like one on the other side, and each woman describes herself and then the woman sitting next to her. And what invariably happens, if the person doesn't get scared and run out of the room, I've had that happen, it's too painful to look in the mirror at themselves, and particularly when they're the most culturally, aesthetically attractive, like by cultural standards, when all they see is this face, they don't realize there's so much more inside, they're the ones that run. They don't always come back, sometimes they do. But it's the same principle of the projection. So you look in the mirror, you describe what you see, and these women are invariably kinder to the woman they're describing than they are to their self. And that's a big lesson for women in the good, the bad, and the ugly. And in the setting, there may be someone that's like one of the ickiest people you can imagine, but the woman sitting next to her is going to be nice and only choose to pick out the positive things. If we could take a lesson from that, the other thing is, if you find it difficult to look in the mirror at yourself, why? What's the message? Is it don't be vain? Is it you're not good enough? A lot of that going on in women. You know, we're taught to be nurturing to everybody else, and we tend to neglect us. And it's like the old adage of the airplane, they put the mask on first, breathe your own oxygen, go to the spa, take the last week of the month off, do whatever it takes to be good to the self so you have more to share. And then your projections are not going to be angry. Because if you're burned out from give and give and give and give and give, you are going to be angry and it's going to come out. And everybody in your way is going to get it on them. And then people will say, oh, she's mean, she's ornery, she's this. And they'll put all those labels who really aren't who you are at the core. You're this beautiful light being. And you have to remember to fill up those batteries so you have something to give.
That's so beautiful. I'm still processing all of it so I can come up with my next question.
Am I giving too much? Because I tend to do
No,
that. I have so much.
no, that's very beautiful.
Okay.
Very, 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 very beautiful. And I think this is about, very of high value for everyone.
I do too. Life changing, life transforming.
Okay, so you're doing this mirroring process. You are analyzing your dreams. You're doing
Mm-hmm.
everything. You encounter something that's, nerve wracking, and but you don't know how to analyze it, right? I might know how to do it. I've been doing this work. You've been
Mm-hmm.
doing it. How does
Mm-hmm.
a person start to understand that negative thing or observation that they had? What is something that they can start to do to dissect it and get the lesson, kind of like how I got my lesson around boundaries. Like it had to hit
Right.
me like several times until I was like,
Mhm.
I know that there's something positive here. What is it? And then I had, actually, what I didn't mention about that scenario was that it started popping up in every other area of my life. I could see the boundaries. And then when I saw it somewhere else, I was like, oh, that's what's going on here, right? And I didn't see it for many years.
That's the nudge became a slap, right?
Yes, exactly.
Well, at least it didn't become a 2x4.
Exactly.
Nicole, the best tool I can think of in this example is what we call hot seat, and that is to put that, the feeling, the emotion, whatever it is, the hesitancy, whatever it is, and just really listen as you describe it. And it works probably best if you either have a friend taking notes or a tape recorder going, because if you record it, you can play it back, and more and more and more information will stem from it, I promise, always. And because the roots are there, and it's just getting to it. The other thing is to get out of the head and into the heart, into the connection, because with the mind body connected, you're going to experience twice as fast whatever it is. Like you've said all along, you're a thinker, right? A great thinker. You think a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I used to be too. And the facilitator I worked with, Matt Gift, said I was the most logical person he'd ever met, which I thought was ironic because he was the most logical person I'd ever met. And again, mirrors, right? Yeah. So if you can work on really, when you're thinking all this stuff, that's fine. I want to encourage you to use your brain. I'm not trying to tell you to disown your brain at all. What I want to encourage you to do as well, though, is to feel it. So what does it feel like in your body? Remember when you went back, if we go back to when you liberated and your body felt, oh yeah, right, all loose and free? That's the same concept. You take your head and your heart, and you do that by paying attention to what it feels like physically, and describe the physical. Oh wow, now I'm kind of feeling like, oh yeah, there's a little tenseness right here. Well, what's that about? Well, put it on the chair in front of you and be the tenseness. Feel what it's like. Where did it come from? Same thing when you're in the bathroom, looking in the mirror. What does it feel like? Are your palms sweaty? Are you breathing normally? Are you stressed? Are your shoulders up to your ears, or are they relaxed? How many wrinkles are deep today because you're so stressed? Or conversely, do you feel, all love and light and free? And it absolutely affects mind, body, spirit, all one, connected. And so the more we practice being in that place, the easier it is to move that stuff like that. We don't have to have it keep coming back.
I love that. I love that. And thank you for mentioning that, because this whole summit is about connecting with your feminine essence, which is connecting to your heart, connecting to your body.
Yes.
So I know that this concept of connecting with your body is foreign to some women, right?
Yeah.
It feels uncomfortable. I once had a client where we were like in an intensive, and we were like, helping this person connect with her body more, and it was like frightening at first. Why is it so important, and how can a person start to own the emotions that come up after they connect with their body? Because basically what we're doing is running away from our emotions, right?
Yep. Okay, what really just sprung up for me is, if you stuff your emotions, that's where cancer comes from, it's where high blood pressure comes from. It's dis-ease. All that dis-ease creates disease in your body. Women now in America have the highest rate, their number one killer is now heart disease. That was unheard of when I was a child, unheard of. But it's all about the stress, and because there's not the release, it goes back 100% to owning all of who we are, to falling in love with all of who we are, to nurturing all of who we are. And that means self-love. You have one purpose in this life, and it's to learn to love every facet of who you are. Everybody.
It's so true. I mean, I was talking to a friend the other day and I told her, every lesson that I've had in my life
Mm-hmm.
has been love myself more.
Yeah. Yep.
How
Yep.
can I love myself more in this situation?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And let's go back even deeper than that, Nicole. Where did you learn not to love yourself? Right?
Yeah, I think it was when I started to have, negative impressions about the world, which was when I was a child, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
That's
it's
right.
always going back and talking to my inner child and telling her, hey, it's okay, right?
Yes. Yes. If every woman here would start the day by going for, I don't care, 1 minute up to 15 minutes. I really like 15 minutes a day. I kind of think 15 minutes a day is a really good way to live your life. But if everyone would just take in the morning, first thing, just a moment to talk with the inner goddess inside, to love her, to nurture her, to promise her that she's protected and all is well, and then to go out of our way to be really kind to ourselves, to treat ourselves the way that we know we want to be treated, then all of that projects out onto our life. And so it all comes back in. And so for me, last book I was just a part of is 365 Ways to Connect to Your Soul. It hit Amazon #1 in a day. There's a reason for that. It's because we need that reminder to connect with our soul. It's our voice of reason. It's the only true voice of reason. And all those messages and all that stuff out there and all that external validation doesn't mean a thing. What matters is that inner voice, that self-valuation. If we value ourselves wholly, accept ourselves fully, and we share all of that love with the world, what do you think will happen on this planet? See, I'm really selfish, Nicole. I want all these positive ripples to go out and to go out and to go out and to go out endlessly into the universe. I really believe that women will, in fact, change the way of the world right now, if we own our power, if we learn to love ourselves first and foremost and let that come out. And if people say to you, well, don't be selfish, let me just say what that means. That means they want to be more selfish and they want you to get out of their way so they can be more selfish. Don't you believe it? I want you to read, everybody watching, every viewer, redefine selfishness to mean doing what's in your best interest, and do it. Do it. Own it. Own your right to self-love. Own your right to shine. Own your right to be that light and to release whatever no longer works or whomever no longer suits you. And if you're in an abusive situation, get out of it, because we are the role models for all of the future.
I think that's so beautiful. I mean, personally, I would love to just highlight something that you said that resonated with me deeply. Going through those uncomfortable emotions
Right.
only takes minutes if you actually, feel it all the way through.
Right. Right.
And if you don't,
Mm-hmm.
it keeps coming up
Mm-hmm.
until you heal it, because
Yeah.
I think that the higher purpose of all this is becoming more light or becoming more love, as you said it.
That's right.
It's
Yeah.
just about a higher path.
Mm-hmm.
And when we are experiencing or we are deflecting or we are resisting all these negative things, what we do is that there's this quote that I love. It's, what you resist persists.
That's right. And it turns to cancer.
Exactly. I mentioned
Right.
that to somebody the other day.
Mm-hmm.
Every single person that I know, that's, it saddens me to see it, right? So many different
Right.
emotions, so
Yeah.
many different things that you're trying to hide, not to look
Mm-hmm.
at, and that just
Mm-hmm.
that reflects outside in the outside, right? But it's always
Mm-hmm.
about taking that first step
That's
to
right.
own that, whatever it is that you're not looking at.
Mm-hmm.
and it
Mm-hmm.
will help you become a better person.
Let me give you a really brutal example of that, Nicole. In 1995, my son shot himself in the head. He came home and he caught his girlfriend with some other guy, and they were using drugs. My son said, "Please don't use drugs." And in essence, she kind of said, "Well, I love drugs more than I love you." And so being 21, they don't know how to process, and he took the way out that he knew that could silence his head. The reason he shot himself in the head, if I stand back, not as his mother, but as a therapist, I'll tell you that is because he couldn't stop the chatter. He couldn't tune out that chatter in his head. And males in society are especially taught to disown their heart. It's getting better, but they're cut off from the heart and the head. And so he didn't know how to process his feelings and his thoughts, so he stopped the thoughts. My response to that was total devastation. When the blast hit him, it took the light from me. At the time, I also owned a little angel store, a little new age place where everything was love and light. And after 18 months, I couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't get through the day anymore. I just couldn't. And up until that point, I had just been going every day, doing what I do, going through the motions mechanically, but my heart wasn't in it. My head wasn't even in it. Just the mechanics of the physical body was in it. I moved to San Diego, packed up, moved to California, and laid on the floor for 2 months and didn't move, just sobbing and going through the deepest, darkest mire, the pit, the morbid pit of all the horrible things that had happened. Then I got up and I started to write. And I wrote and I wrote and I wrote like an obsessive compulsive person. I wrote until the sun came up sometimes. Just wrote. And that was my first book. It's called Blessings in the Mire. And it was my catalyst for releasing all of that, for feeling it, seeing it, dissecting it, and letting it all out there. And then I put the transcript, the manuscript, right in the drawer, and I shut it, and I never gave it to any publishers because it was so personal. Eventually I did, but it took years for that to be published. But I'm going to tell you, the reason I bring that up is because up until the time when I moved, which was 18 months after, when I moved and allowed myself those 2 months to just feel everything, to just feel it, to process it, and then to use it, because it's all energy. And if you're familiar with Einstein, you know that energy never, ever is destroyed. It only changes shape. So when we stuff all those emotions into our body, they are going to keep in there. They're going to be doing something. And that's why your cells multiply in cancer cells, because they're still in there. When you can release it all, whether it's journaling, I'm a huge advocate of journaling for my clients, dream journals, day journals, any journaling, get it out there, spew it, free it, and feel it. Because if you don't feel it, it's going to stay there. It's going to fester like a horrible sickness, and it will come out. And it will come out in every aspect of your life, one way or the other. So for me, I'm kind of a control freak, and I kind of like to be in charge of where and when and how I heal. And so I learned probably more about myself then during that process than I've ever learned in my life. And I could have easily just followed him. I could have, I was in deep pain. I could have easily just ended it right then and there. Instead, I made a decision, not right up front, but after a couple months of really being in that mire and really dissecting every rotten thing that had ever transpired and releasing and finding the blessing in it, because everything is a part of those layers to the facets of who I am now. I couldn't be coaching women had I not gone through everything I went through from the minute I was born or before, clear up until the present. I wouldn't have the substance, I wouldn't have the tools if I hadn't experienced for myself all of those things. And that's why I can now help women to turn those struggles into strengths.
That's so beautiful, and I'm really sorry for your loss. I think it's so true what you just mentioned when you allow yourself to experience that. For me personally, I lost my dad. It was of a heart attack. It was
Uh-huh.
unexpected, and I didn't allow myself to process it. I was doing everything on the outside that seemed correct. Like I was finishing my MBA. I was doing
Mm-hmm.
excellent at work. Everybody
Mm-hmm.
thought like, how is she holding herself together? She's not showing any emotion.
Yeah, yeah, not showing. Doesn't mean they're not there, does it?
I didn't even want to look at it. And, interestingly enough, I had another interview with an expert, and we talked about it, and she mentioned it like, have you ever had pneumonia? Right? And
Mm-hmm.
I always have good health, which is something that I'm grateful for.
Yes.
And, in the months after my dad's death, I think it was like 6 months after, one day I
Mm-hmm.
just like dropped in the bed and I had pneumonia for like 3 weeks
Yep.
because
Yeah.
I wasn't
Mm-hmm.
processing it. I had to
Mm-hmm.
literally, I remember sitting, just lying in the seat, very
Mm-hmm.
sick, and with a picture of my dad looking at me,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
Oh,
that's when I could like start to just like cry it
yeah.
out,
Yep.
experience it
Yep.
out. But I firmly
Mm-hmm.
believe that that's how I got better. Like after that,
Yep.
I had like not even a cold. So
Mm-hmm.
I think we all go through these things, but it's important to look at it
Mm-hmm.
and look at it from a place of deep, deep self love,
Mm-hmm.
not for anything that the outside tells you. It's for deep
That's right.
self love.
I
That's
really love that what you said about the your body, because you denied it the you didn't denied the whole self the opportunity to heal. And so your body said, okay, if you're not going to give me this, I'm going to take it. And it took 3 weeks of pneumonia. It will always, because the mind, body, soul, you're all connected. It will always remember. And your physicality, that's why it's so important to be in touch with your physical. It will always tell you. I wonder if you can remember, if you think back to the time when your father died, I wonder if you can remember what it felt like physically in your body before you got the pneumonia.
Yeah, I do remember. It felt a little bit contracted.
Yeah,
I was kind of like sluggish.
yeah,
I would, just walk to my day, but it was kind of like lazy and forced.
yeah,
I didn't have like
yeah,
the same energy that I have now.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
it would come up like here, but then I would be like, yes, okay, what do I need to do? What do I need to achieve, etc.
Yeah.
But I was tired.
Mm-hmm.
I was constantly tired. I remember that, and but I was
Yeah.
also packing my day with different things from work to helping my mom to the university. That I would arrive at home at 11 p.m. and then all that I had left was go to sleep. I just
Yeah.
didn't want to
Yeah.
look at certain things.
Yeah.
That's just the way
And
that
yet,
I organize my day.
yeah, and yet, if you had taken time, even 15 minutes every day, to do a little bit of work, you maybe would have avoided that 3 months. But when you mention about being tired and sluggish, that's all part of it. And I really would encourage everyone watching, everyone, when you feel sluggish or tired, give yourself permission to be rested. It's what you're calling for. It's what you're screaming for before it gets bigger.
Yeah, that's beautiful. It's always like, how can I love myself more in this situation? Giving
Exactly.
yourself permission to care for yourself
Yes.
more than anyone else would.
Yes. Yep. Redefining selfish, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, exactly.
Yeah.
I want to thank you so much for this interview because I know that it was deeply transformational. At first I was concerned, my own way of saying, like, how do I conduct this interview for everyone to understand it and understand this concept of projections at first. I know that I had my own resistance about it. many years. That's why I kept asking questions around resistance, because I wouldn't accept it for years.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think it's very, very, very true. But I think that all these tools ultimately help for a higher self-love, more light, more acceptance, more compassion, for the world. And that will extend and project onto the world, and more people will, rise up when they see us behaving this way with ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah. Because we're all mirrors.
And I think something that's very interesting, I don't think we mentioned, is that when a person feels judged, 9 times out of 10, they will continue the same behavior that we are judging them for. Right? So as soon as I flipped the switch, at least with this person that I mentioned earlier, it changed. Because there's that that's our sense of liberation and freedom that takes over both of us. And we feel very loved.
Yeah, because you're no longer trying to control something that you don't understand, and that person doesn't have to be resistant to your resistance. And so everybody kind of relaxes.
Yeah, and it's just a beautiful process and overall. So I just wanted to thank you so much for this interview. It has been truly transformation for myself, for everyone, I'm sure. And I know as well that you mentioned that you have a gift. So if you could explain that to the audience, that would be awesome.
My gift is a page that they can go to. And are you going to, I hope you have the URL that you'll include with this, because I'm not quite sure what it is. But if they go to jandeelstra.com, they'll find it. Deelstra is hard to spell, so hopefully you'll have that all done.
Yeah,
but
I'll give it to them.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, the gift I have, and it is truly a gift. There's no opt-in required. Like I said, you go there, you get it. If you want more, sign up for the newsletter. You'll get a whole series of Awakening the Goddess audios and get on the newsletter. And if you want to sign up for the blog, yet again, it's all voluntary. The gift today is a little experiential reinforcement for projections. And in case anybody has any questions, I think they'll be really clear when they get this gift. So, and Nicole, it truly has been my pleasure to be here with you. I think you are such a beautiful, beautiful example of bold and beautiful women. I'm honored that you would ask me to be here today. Thank you.
Thank you so much for everything that you said. And I'm honored as well to do this interview, to meet you, because I think it will be, a fantastic shift for everyone involved, right? So I want to thank you once again, and
My pleasure.
I hope that everybody enjoyed this interview. So if you have any questions, you know what to do. I hope that you have a fantastic day, and we will be talking really soon.